Hello, YouTube. Happy Saturday. Welcome to another episode of Comics and Stuff. My name is Devin. I'm your host. I have missed you all. I hope you guys missed me too. I had a great time at Star Wars Celebration. Video coming soon, pending, hopefully. Today, I have a special treat for everybody. A good friend of mine, as well as somebody that I really look up to in the comic book and collectibles and commodities industry. My dear friend Nate, who is somebody that is just kind of an inspiration for me, at least, and he's just an all-around cool guy. I'm going to bring him on in here for a good old-fashioned industry spotlight. So everybody, please welcome Nate. Nate, my friend, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Comic Stuff. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Devin. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastical. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and be here and chat with us. I know you've got a new little one running around the house. I want to get straight down to it. So let's start off with, just for those who don't know, who is Nate? Who is Kihei Collectibles? Give me a little bit of background about yourself. Tell me about you. What do you do for work? How did you get into comic books? Let's hear it.
Oh, absolutely. So I've been in collecting now for probably about 6, 7 years now, and I'm created the Discord forum. I've created Collectors Summit. I've definitely started to expand and reach out to the community more. That's been a big focus this year. Is I want to engage and be able to meet guys more, put my face out there more, and be able to meet you guys, because I mean that's been my favorite part of collecting is this community. It's given a ton to me, so I'm really focusing this year on giving back to the community. So that's kind of where I'm at in the collecting space. Love Golden Age. Love to mix it up. I used to start out in silver, ended up in gold, and I've pretty much stayed there on the comic side. I've branched out to a bunch of other collectibles. Um, Other than that, I mean, I don't work in collectibles, but I spend a ton of time in it. It's fascinating. I love the art, the numbers, the analytics of it, the community. I mean, there's just so much to get lost in it with. And beyond all that, I've made great friends in collecting. I mean, you being one of them, I've truly gained friends for life in this community. So that's been the biggest blessing of it. And so that's
Absolutely.
kind of my background, is that I've definitely been around for a good bit, especially on the Instagram side of things. But this year, I'm starting to focus on putting myself out there more and letting people get a chance to get to know me.
Love it. And for the internet, for those of you guys who don't know, at the end of every single one of these episodes, I'm saying, join my Discord that me and my buddy Nate run. This is that Nate. This is the gentleman that I manage the Discord for, the Collectors Room. So if you guys want to chat with me or him, please make sure you guys click that link that is down in the description below. There's also that Instagram where you can find the link in our bio that will take you straight to that Discord invite. So Nate, that is awesome. I appreciate that you have such a passion for the comic book community and just the collectibles community in general. And I love that your mind is very analytical and you love to look at the numbers and the way that things work and how everything is broken down. I think one thing that I've always got to ask everybody: how did you, Nate? How did you get into collecting? What is it that lit that spark for you?
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm a 90s kid. I was born in 93. People always think I'm 40, 50 years old. Nope, I'm 28 years old. So I came up with Pokemon was probably my introduction to collecting. Gen 1 Pokemon. I was there getting all the booster packs,
Love
filling
it.
out the binders. That's kind of how I got started. And then from there, I've just always been in and out of collecting and a ton of different things. And I'm not exactly sure what it is about collecting that's drawn me to it, but I've always been a huge fan of artwork in all its different various means and media. And for me, cards, comics, original art, manga, I mean, you name it. I love artwork of all different forms, and
Oh yeah.
collecting's given me an avenue to enjoy artwork in its various forms.
Okay. Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of where I got stuck in from there, where uh, I branched into a bunch of different avenues and verticals of collectibles, but I've been collecting now off and on for basically since I was 8 years old.
And I absolutely love it. I mean, you have some wild stuff. You've got some wild shit. I get. You know, uh, it's funny. So you and I are about the same age. You started with Gen 1 Pokemon. Even though I think I'm technically actually a couple months older than you, but I started with Gen 2. I just never touched red, blue, or yellow, I my first Pokemon game was Gold, and so I am just this Johto junkie of a Gen 2 Pokemon fan. I was never able, like, I'm not at all a Charizard fan. Like, it's Typhlosion all the way, all day, every day. Charizard who, like, that's so always an interesting observation. Now,
Honestly, I mean, Gen 1's classic, but Gen 2, like Neo Discovery
mhm.
pack and all that, I think Neo Discovery is the best pack they did.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, I when it comes to I Gen 1 or Gen 2 stuff, Neo Discovery, the Shining Celebi, the Shining Tyranitar, or the Dark Tyranitar, all of the I loved that light and dark thing that they did, that they brought back from the Team Rocket set. Um and I think for me though, Neo Genesis, the first Neo set is the special one for me, but that's because it has the T17 Typhlosion, the OG Typhlosion card, which I still have, and it's my favorite card that I've ever owned. And the Lugia, the other king of Pokemon outside of like the Gold Star Rayquaza and like or Rayquaza, whatever, and the first edition Charizard. They've got that Lugia, which is I mean, that thing has commanded some insane numbers, especially over the last year. So I've seen in PSA 10, I think I saw one for like $100,000+. So
I can
uh,
feel the Golden Age guys cringing at
yeah.
just this part of the conversation. I can feel the pressure on me.
Just like, what are you talking about? Get to the comics. Now, you said you started in Silver Age book. I can't remember the last time that I've ever seen you talk about a Silver Age comic. Really, we've seen plenty of Golden Age, but now you've been really working your way up through. I mean, like you had said, you've been around the comic book industry for a long time. People know you. You've got a good, reliable name, and now you're into the pulp space. You have just such a massive. You got me hooked on those things. Like, it's like hair on your head. Like, I can't get enough of them. How did you make that shift from Silver Age into Golden Age and pulp magazines, and now it almost seems like it's almost entirely pulps? Like, what brought you to that point? Was it just the art, or?
Honestly, what really got it started was, and this is because of the generation we were collecting in, where everything's digital, everything's instant. Like, we're getting fed images of these books constantly, all day long. Even the rarest of books, we're seeing them all the time.
Right.
So you're gonna fatigue on this stuff quicker than you would in the 90s and early 2000s, because you have instant access to see these things all the time. And for me, I mean, I have a little bit of ADD about collecting. Like, if I see the same stuff over and over, I tend to get bored in it. Like, I love to find, that's part of me being a collector. I want to dabble in new things and feel like I'm, finding things, new exciting things. I'm not just doing what everyone else is doing or collecting what everyone else has. And that's really where pulps came in. Was I was at a show in Washington, a smaller comic book show, and going booth to booth, and found a box of pulps, and it was my first time seeing them, and I was just flipping through them, and it was just beautiful artwork. And as I was talking to a guy, I'm kind of like, "Hey, what are these?" Like, I didn't even know what pulps were, and he's like, "Hey, you can have this whole box for $200." And it was like 50, 60 pulps.
That's awesome.
Coming out of the Golden Age world, I was like, "You're gonna give me artwork like this for 200-300 bucks?" I'm like, "This is insane." So that kind of got me hooked, and then I dove in, and you start learning about all the artwork, the famous authors that got started in pulps, the amazing stories, all that goes into it, and truly the scarcity and the rarity of it. I mean, you feel like an explorer in pulps.
Right.
Like, you're finding things you've never seen before. They're not showing up on social media. They weren't. I mean, at least a couple years ago they weren't. They are more now, but that's really where it enticed me. Was the artwork is gorgeous. They feel truly rare. Like, you're learning, like, not all the information is out there on the internet. You kind of have to do some true detective work to learn about some of these things,
Oh yeah.
especially to find where they're at. So all of those factors in, really, like, pulps has just been a ton of fun. Factoring on, really, the main point is, like, the art is addicting. It
Oh
is
yeah.
so that, like,
Absolutely.
the art will blow you away. So
It's funny, and something that you touched on. You say you're going to give me all of this artwork for 200-300 bucks. Like, I think that was one of my first draws too. Was when you started showing me pulps, and I was like, oh my god, look at these are gorgeous. Like, wow. And I was like, I probably can't afford those. I can't. Look at that. That looks just like, how many of those do you think there are just laying around? You can find them. You can buy a beautiful pulp book for $40. Like,
yeah.
there are some pulps
Oh,
out there that are
yeah.
just like insane money, or I'm sorry, insane art for like very little money, and it's great because I think that's what collecting is about. If you're an investor, it's one thing, which is totally fine, but if you just want to collect something that makes you happy, that's not going to break your wallet. I mean, pulps are just awesome, unless you want to get into the really crazy high echelon stuff like pedigree collections or the Batwoman cover and all that stuff. So,
It's definitely out there. Like if you want to spend big money, you can spend
oh,
big
you
money.
can.
But unlike Golden Age, you can get some amazing stuff for, like you're saying, 20, 50, $80. Like that whole row up there is a lot of amazing stories titles, which is one of the cheaper titles in Pulse, but it's got super fun sci-fi,
Yeah.
fantasy, and you can even get those in pretty good shape for $150.
Yeah. No,
I mean,
amazing stories, planet stories. I mean, some of these are like some, I mean, a lot of these are all, some of my favorite stuff because I'm such a sci-fi guy. One thing that I love about pulps is that not only are they really plentiful, but I mean, like, you can find just so many, like you had said a minute ago, there's so many stories that people don't realize started in pulps. I think the
mhm,
other day we were talking, and I guess I Robot, like that old Will Smith movie from like 2006 or whatever, was a pulp story. I had no idea. I've
yep,
always known who Cthulhu is. I didn't realize that Cthulhu started in pulp magazines. Same thing with Tarzan from like Edgar
exactly.
Rice Burroughs, like all of that stuff. John Carter, all of that stuff started in pulp magazines. I had no
Yep.
idea until I started learning about this stuff. And those things are, they have big followings. Those are cult classics. I mean, even that weird John Carter Disney movie has developed this like following, even though it like flopped and never got the sequel I think that it deserved. But like a lot of these things came from pulps, which is really cool. And I think that that's a really fun, neat aspect of collecting. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit before I just start ranting about pulps and buying stuff. You also mentioned that you ran or you also mentioned that you created and recently hosted the very first ever collectors summit here in Washington. Tell me a little bit about the collectors summit. Just a quick overview for the viewers who aren't familiar with it, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into where how that came to be. So, what was the collectors summit?
Absolutely. So the concept for Collector Summit was actually fairly simple. I created the show that I would want to see as a collector. That was my whole premise of it. And really, it was three things. I want good, hard to find books, primarily Golden Age, Silver Age books. I want a good crowd of guys there who aren't going to waste time. They're not tire kickers. They're serious about this hobby. And I want fun social events. That's it. That's all
Love
I
it.
want at Collector Summit. So that was the whole basis for it. I wanted to provide a room where vendors can bring their truly great golden age, great pulps, some of those things that might be harder to move. Like these aren't things that are going to sell in a claim sale on Instagram per se. Like these were, you need a specific buyer for these. And I basically my pitch to them was that, hey, if you can bring me that stuff, I'll give you a room full of guys that are serious about these books and will put up the time and money to buy them.
Love
And
it.
on top of that, I want to create a truly fun social time where these guys can come and relax. It feels like a vacation, especially coming out of COVID, where we haven't really been able to see each other for a few years. It's been
Right.
very online heavy. I was like, I want to create a great weekend where these guys they can have their show time, they can have their business time, but then also they can just have fun, relax, get to chat, network. And I think we did a great job of that. I mean, it, it was
The
a
whole
blast.
thing looked like an amazing time. I'm still and will forever be very salty and butthurt that you had it on the one weekend that I was not here.
You could have
When you
skipped, man.
decided to
I
host
mean,
it.
you really did miss. That's like my one takeaway that made me super happy. I don't care about the numbers that went through the room. I don't care about the revenue dealers did per se. What really like made me feel like, okay, I won was talking to all the collectors, going from one by one and say, man, I haven't had this much fun in a long time. Like this was a huge blessing to be able to come out, chat with guys. I had a blast. Like seeing everyone smile, laugh, get to chat with each other, like guys who haven't even met each other before, but they've been chatting for years on Instagram.
Right.
Getting to see all that social interaction, that fun, and like networking and bonds being formed, like that to me was my measurement for success. Was that everyone went home with a smile and truly like had a blast that weekend.
Right. Well, it's a community. It's all about coming together and having a great time as a community and just enjoying your hobby. And I think
Yep.
that Collector Summit really kind of capture that. You know, we have Comic Cons, and you know, and this is no shame to cosplayers or toy dealers or T-shirt vendors, but I mean, Comic Con has become such a pop media convention that it has kind of drifted away from that comic centric original intention to for all of the other things there, but for just comic books, pulp magazines, those neat little paper collectibles that we all like. It is nice that you had this place for
Yeah.
folks to just enjoy that and have such a good time. Everybody just looked so
That
happy,
was
and I'm
that was
very
really a big
envious.
thing coming out of it, man. Was that like when I first started talking about Collector Summit, I threw up the site, threw up the messaging. Like I did ruffle some feathers, and people were like, "What? Like no cosplayers, no tire kickers, all that." And it's like, truly, it's like I'm not trying to be an asshole. That wasn't the point, but it's like if you want to cosplay, if you want signatures, if you want modern books, there's a million different things out there already out there for you.
Yeah.
You can go to a convention almost every other weekend that caters to your desires and wants. And really the true heavy collectors that the golden age, the key silver, the pulps, the artwork, like these very serious collectors who don't really dabble in signatures or more of the pop media events, they've been kind of brushed to the side. And so really that
Yeah.
was the whole point with Collector Summit was I'm never gonna have an event of 10,000 people, but I want to cater to those 500 people who have been kind of left behind in the growth and these mass cons.
Oh yeah. And that is a very admirable thing, And again, this is for the internet of no disparaging towards, cosplayers or, toy dealers, toy
So,
collectors, anything like that. I mean, I eat up vintage toys like for breakfast. I love that stuff. Like you can see my Pokemon plushies and my Star Wars action figures and some Legos hanging around, but it is so nice that there is just a place where I can just go and talk to my comic book buddies and just sit
yeah,
around and have a great time. Now, I know you're saying, and we're both saying, it's all about community and just having a good time with your friends. But this was a bigger show in terms of big time dealers and big dollars being spent, and I'm sure that the
well,
logistics were insane. And it sounds like you consider the show a success. But I think I've got two good questions. One, um, I want to know what. I mean, this is technically a comic show. I mean, I want to know what was the biggest pain in the butt? What was the biggest challenge in getting this thing together? Because it must have been, pretty daunting. But also, do you have an idea of what sort of numbers were pushed through the show? I'm just out of curiosity. If you don't want to
yeah.
answer, you don't have to.
No, absolutely. I don't mind sharing that at all. I'll tell you, so the branding of it, the getting the promotion out there, the getting the word through the community, guys were amazing in terms of sharing Collector Summit and really, I mean, it was insane how much you were seeing guys post about Collector Summit. It was all over the place. That part was great. The community really stepped up and helped me out there. Some of the hard part about it was, I mean, being a first time show, I did a lot of my stuff by myself. A lot of the logistics, getting dealers in there, timing of stuff, organizing a lot of little details like people don't think of, like building the lanyards to the badges, like connecting that. Like it's a lot of little things that go into place to make the whole event happen. And so, but overall, uh, nothing too bad, honestly. Like
Okay.
because I kept it pretty focused, pretty small in a community I really knew, like it was very manageable. And that was the thing is like I did want to create the venue itself took care of a lot of things. Like I did want to create a very, high class, nice, comfortable venue. That took care of a lot. Like I didn't need to do a bunch to make that feel like a fun, welcoming place. So
Right.
that was great. And in terms of revenue success, it blew me away. I mean, um, Tyson of Amazing Heroes reached out and basically after the show and said, "Hey, man, I did almost $200,000 in sales through the
Wow.
weekend," which is
That's
insane given
wild.
the fact that we had about 200 people through the door the whole weekend.
It's 10 grand a
So,
person.
yeah, that was my whole pitch to thing is like, "Look, man, you don't need 10, 20, 30,000 people through the door. Like, I can give you that with 200 guys." So, that was the whole thing, and it's like and to the vendors, this was really a proof of concept year. I was brand new to the show. A lot of them don't know me. A few of them have known me just from buying them, but so I really am super thankful to the vendors who stepped up to be there with me this first year, and they worked for them. I mean, I went booth to booth, and all of them were blown away at how these buyers came out and really stepped up and they were not shy about, being here to buy. These guys were on a mission at Collectors Summit.
Right. No tire kickers. Just
No, and that's the thing. I mean, we had guys fly in from all over. I mean, and that was my thing is like if you're gonna, give me your trust and come out to my show, I'm gonna make sure there's books that are worth you flying 6 hours out here for.
right. Okay.
So, and it worked. I mean, dealers brought out amazing stuff. Terry brought out a lot of his personal stuff.
I love
Tyson
Gary.
Tyson had more Golden Age than I've seen in entire cons. I mean, there was amazing stuff throughout that building. Mikey was running around with his VHSs marked up 7,000%. I mean, it was yeah, it was fun.
At YouTube, you guys know Mikey. You've seen him a few times. Oh man, that's funny. Dude, I love Mikey. He's such a spaz and he's all over the place. But God, he's so good and intuitive at how the collectibles industry works. And sometimes when I'm talking to him, this question pops up and comes to mind. And I'd like to ask you as well. What is and I had another question about the show, but we'll get to that in a second. But for you, Nate, what is like the what do you view as the current state of the collectibles industry? Where are we? There's so many different facets and avenues and lanes and alleyways of collecting at this point. I mean, it's no longer just like nerds collecting comic books. There's so many different things. What is the state? Where are we and what's up? What's your opinion?
My personal opinion, and I feel like in the last year, this has really been big, maybe even 2 years, is that we are truly seeing big institutional money is coming into collectibles. Collectibles are starting to solidify themselves as an asset class. You're seeing this with the silver keys just skyrocketing,
Oh yeah.
institutional money coming in them. You're seeing companies like Rally and Otis do these fractional shares of big books where they're turning them into essentially shares of a book. That to me is just huge in terms of creating this into an asset. They're treating this like, a fine art piece, a stock, a company. And that's really what we're seeing is that this is no longer just a couple nerds in a basement trading books. This is like really starting to solidify itself. There's some big money. Celebrities coming in. Logan Paul, one of
Right.
the
Him and his
biggest
Pokemon.
names, one
Yeah.
of the biggest names in the world currently. He's always advocating about his Pokemon. Gary V loves Pokemon and other collectibles. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Steve
becoming
Aoki.
more and more of a conversation in everyday life and especially in business.
Yeah.
Collectibles is becoming very well known for sure.
Yeah. Another one that comes to mind is Steve Aoki because he hangs out with Gary Vee and he's very big on the Pokemon cards, but also our friend Yaniv and his wife Tal, they helped him get into animation cells.
Mhm.
That's another one I need to do a video on animation cells. I'm trying to drag Yaniv and Mikey into talking with me about those, and you're welcome to join as well. But that market is very interesting because they're literally all one of a kind pieces, and I'll start ranting about it. But in any case,
I mean, if
um,
you've seen what comic original art has done
mhm. Oh,
compared to what animation art goes for, I mean, I think animation art has a ton of room to go.
oh
And
yeah,
the animation community is gigantic. And a lot of these guys now who grew up with animation are, they're hitting their 30s, 40s, and they've got the money to spend now on these art pieces.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think that community you're gonna see a lot of development in the animation world, especially as those pieces start to hit the auction houses and such.
I'm very curious to see where it goes. That's why I've slowly over the last like year and a half, animation cells and pulp magazines specifically, I'm just slowly picking up my favorite little bits and pieces. And really, I think I'm near completion for both of them. I missed out video games. I missed out on like 3 games, maybe 4 games before the boom, and now I'm like oh gosh, I have to save and try to hunt down affordable copies of these. But I think I'm just about there with animation cells and pulp magazines, and I think that those two, like you said, have a lot of room to grow. And actually, that leads into my next question. What markets in the collectibles and commodities space have you recently seen that are really piquing your interest? You know, we know that you love the pulp magazines. We know that you're all about it, but has there been anything else that you've seen and been like, oh, that's something I could really get into?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I love pulps. I'm probably one of the bigger pulp collectors. Love the art, all that. In terms of a sound investment, uh, they're risky. I
Yeah,
mean, the database for them is extremely loose. There's not a lot of information out there. There's not a lot of numbers out there to support prices. It's very new. We don't grading is coming soon. It's not out there yet. Like pulps has a long way to go before it really establishes its baseline. Right
right.
now, it's a lot of excitement right now. It's a lot of numbers are really all over the place. You know, it is very new. So I would tell someone like if you're getting into pulps, get into pulps because you like them. Get into pulps because you love the artwork. Don't be so worried about oh, if I buy this $20 pulp, it's gonna be 200 someday. Like you don't know that. That's a risky assumption to make. Just get into pulps because you truly love the artwork.
Yeah,
Or you love the
absolutely.
stories, you love the authors. Like get into pulps for that reason. I would be very wary of telling someone like it's not a Silver Age key. You know, they're not going to be. I'm sorry, Dwight, but they're probably not going to be making a Shadow Marvel, you know, cameo or Disney Plus show for the Shadow anytime soon.
I appreciate
So
the preemptive
yeah,
apology to Dwight.
exactly. So I would say like in terms of markets, like I love Pulse, but it is like you know, be careful there. Don't get into it because you think it's guaranteed money or easy money. Like just get into it because you love it. In terms
Right.
of other markets that I'm excited about, Um, I'm hugely speculating on and growing and collecting sealed vinyl.
Sealed vinyl.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the reason why is because I've seen what VHS has been able to do.
Mhm.
And at first, I'll be the first to say I was a huge hater on VHS when it first came out. I'm like, this is stupid. It's that you know they came out in the '90s. It's everywhere. There's blockbusters. Warehouse is full of this stuff. Mikey's lost his mind. Blah blah blah. But that, as the more I've got into it, like I understand it. Huge pop culture relevancy. It touches people like all over the world. Like we grew up with movies. It's got that nostalgia to it. It's got the artwork on VHS is great too. Like it hits all those checkpoints. So for me looking forward, vinyl records, I'm like, even beyond movies, music is universal.
Mhm.
Uh transcends language, transcends cultures. Like artists like Michael Jackson is worldwide.
Right.
And so the way I look at things is like, okay, you know, there's always been a vinyl market, but it's never exploded. It's never been graded. It's got a long ways to go. And I feel like if VHS can even do what it's done now, vinyl has a huge potential to grow. And
Remind me
so
to
for
talk to you about or remind me to talk to you after the show here. I actually it's funny that you mentioned this. I remember watching Pawn Stars like on the History Channel where people would bring in, you know, old vinyl and stuff like that and it'd be signed and it'd be X amount of thousands of dollars for high profile artists and whatnot. I have a friend who owned a vinyl like record shop down in Portland, sold the whole shop, shoved his you know, all of his entire record collection, which is thousands of stuff into his car, moved up to Seattle, and is now just here with a bunch of vinyl like crammed into his apartment. I'll hook
the
you guys up.
Pacific Northwest is a huge hub for vinyl.
Oh yeah, well it's a treasure trove of just collectibles. I mean, this is where the Pokemon card game started. This is where Magic started. Like Dark Horse
Yeah.
Comics is just down below us, like in Portland. Like there's so much
Yeah.
in the Pacific Northwest. I
We're
mean,
lucky to live here for sure.
yeah, absolutely. Now, you know, it's funny. Here's my secret dream and hope, and this is the stupidest thing I've ever said on YouTube, but I absolutely stand by it. I love vintage Pez dispensers. Those things are so cool, and I have seen like I think like some of the really old ones with like the Batman with the little you know vinyl cape.
Yeah.
Those things are just so cool, man. And I know that there's like a very niche collectibles community, and I know that Funko has now picked up Pez dispensers and they're doing Funko Pez dispensers. But God, I just love those old Pez dispensers, and I hope that there's like a community or market for them at some point in the
And
future.
even if
That's my
there's
hope.
not, like, even if there's not, it brings you joy.
They're
You
just
think it's
cool.
cool, you love it. Like, I'm a big advocate of like, yeah, have your analytics side of collecting, have your ones where you're thinking about the growth. You're thinking about, the sales numbers, all that. Like have it be an investment, but then also have your ones where you just enjoy it.
Yeah, just have a good time.
Like for me, it's Yu-Gi-Oh for me.
Mm,
I don't care if Yu-Gi-Oh went to a penny a card. Like it's something I grew up with. It's fun.
you
I
just
love
like
the
it.
art. Keep liking. Like I don't even really pay attention to the market on it. Like it's just cool to have. And I think as collectors, like we get really caught up in the FOMO, the numbers, and social media
Yeah.
has been a huge part of that. And feeling like you're constantly missing out and all that. And I think it's important is like to take a step back every now and then and have things that you just generally love to collect.
Well, and I think that that's that's how you separate the collector from the investor. I mean, because folks buy what they love, and I mean, for me, I'm just a what is it? Is a jack of all trades but master of none. I have so many just random collectibles, but it's not because I seek to enrich myself. It's because I find shit that I like and I buy it because I like it. If it makes me money in the future, cool. But like it's
Yeah,
more so just because I thought it was shiny and I really wanted it.
yeah,
Yeah. So
absolutely. That's a much more enjoyable way to go about it.
oh
And
yeah. And
it's very easy to get caught up in the numbers and because it's shoved in our face all day long.
oh yeah.
Auction numbers, whatnot sales, this, that, like we're shown the numbers all day long
Hmm.
that it's easy to get caught up in that and, forget why you got started in collecting.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, I mean, they say money is the root of all evil. It's a very enticing thing to see that, oh, like, oh, this comic book that's really sentimental and value to me, it's worth $1,000. I'm gonna sell it off, and oh, now I'm gonna start. That's why, like, I've always had a hard time understanding like modern spec. I would love to have a modern spec person come on here and like talk to me about that particular subject. And for the internet, for those who are uninitiated, modern spec is the speculation of the potential value of modern comic books. But like all my modern books, man, I read them because I read them because I like them. I still read modern books and I just buy them because I like them, not because I'm thinking about their future value.
Yeah.
um
I mean, I look at I'm not a modern spec guy at all, but I look
yeah.
at it as a lot of similarities to sports cards.
Mm-mm.
Chasing the variance, chasing the performance of some character in some form of media that's coming out. Is that it's got a little bit more of a almost a gambling aspect to it
Yeah.
with the modern spec side of things. And if that's what brings you joy in collecting, go for it.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. If that's what you like to collect, if you want to collect the variants, then collect the variants. But that it is a very market trend. You got to really be on top of it and really guess correctly with that in that facet of stuff.
I
Yeah,
do think
I
like
have a
as a golden age guy, I can say that we overlook some of these modern artists.
mhm.
There are some modern artists putting out amazing stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Gabriel Delotto is one of my favorites. I love his work, what he did with Spider Man's and uh, Peach Momoko, totally different
Mm,
style. But, like I love her stuff. So like I think as golden age guys, we get so caught up in golden age artists that we tend to overlook. There's some great modern artists putting out work out there, and they're
mhm.
due their credit too. I mean, these guys are coming up, and girls are
Yeah.
coming up and putting
I
out great work.
I think three of my favorite artists are, one of them may be considered a silver age artist, but the other two are bronze, copper, modern, guys. You've got Mike Grell, Mike Mignola, and Mark Schultz. And Mike Mignola, I mean, when did he start? Like in the like early 90s, very late 80s, and he's still around and he does. I mean, his artwork is just. I've got some right there. You can't really see it because of the glare from my ring light, but I've got a Hellboy piece right above my head. I mean, I love that
Yeah.
guy. Um, sorry, I have two, so I didn't know which one is Hellboy, which one is Star Wars. So,
No,
um,
I think that's like it's always like keep an open mind. Like even if you love Golden Age, like you can see the influence of Golden Age on these modern guys and
absolutely.
even bronze all that. Like you can see it develop in the influence, and so like I think that's fun too. And it's good to keep an open mind, even if you're a Golden Age guy. You can appreciate the artwork they're putting out there today.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's always you also have those cover homages. I mean, there's pulp magazines, and then there's Golden Age comics that are like cover swipes, and then there's Silver Age comics that cover swipe the Golden Age, and you can see that little transition, the
Yep.
little changes that they make over the time, and it's really interesting to see that stuff. And I think another thing that's really interesting, there's a young kid I follow on Instagram. I can't remember his name. He's like 23, but he works on a comic book called The Calico Kid, and God, he replicates that silver golden age style amazingly,
Mhm.
and it is uncanny how well he does it. I don't know how he does it, what programs he uses, but golly, I'll have to send it to you later. Now,
No,
I would like to switch gears really quickly. A couple things. One, I mean, we've talked so much about the pulp grading and how that database is just kind of a mess because it's so hard to keep track, and numbers and FOMO and all of this stuff. What is it that do you think that the collectibles industry, do you think, what is something that just is just so essential that we're missing, or do you think that there's anything that we can do to like clean this thing up? Like what in the industry, what does the industry need?
you know what we need, but I can't discuss it here yet because it's not done yet. But I'll say this: in my collecting time, I have always sought to bring innovation to the community through different projects I've worked on. Discord for me was an evolution of the CGC forum.
Mhm.
Collectors Summit was an inspiration I took from shows like Terry's Cow Comic Con, Torpedoes Collectors Con, great show. I took inspiration from those to build Collectors Summit. I'm always trying to bring innovation and different ideas to move along this community and provide uh, betterment in the community. And so, what I would say now is we do need something that's going to assist with data, analytics, stability in the market, portfolio tracking data. And all I can say is stay tuned. I have more
Stay
projects.
tuned.
I have more projects in the work.
You heard it here first, internet. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about is you just recently had or launched an auction of pulp magazines,
I did.
a decent chunk on Heritage. Am I correct?
Yeah. By the time this show airs, the auction will be over. The auction is tomorrow. And I sent about 240 pulps in. That's a pretty good chunk of pulps.
I'm bidding on some of them. Please
Good
let me
luck.
win, internet. Okay.
So I was basically in conversation with Rick Bakers. If you don't know him, amazing guy.
Really one of
And
the nicest guys I know.
absolutely. So I've been talking with him months ago and said, hey, the problem with pulps is it is so dry. Like it's not like comic books where we get an auction every other week full of amazing books. You can go 6 months without seeing some good pulp show up in an auction or anything. So I got to the point with my collection where um, I definitely was a little oversaturated. I'm like, okay, I can let some of these go. Even
Fair
knowing
enough.
that grading is right around the corner, I'm okay with that. I'm
Okay.
like, let's get a chunk of pulps out there. Let's see where the market's at. Give guys a chance too to like get some really cool books.
Fair
A lot
enough.
of those pulps you're going to see in the auction, those are one of three I've seen in years of collecting.
Well,
So
that was gonna lead to my next question. Are there any particular pulps that you're like, these are the ones that I'm really excited to see what they do, and what sort of
oh,
like numbers they bring in,
the
or
detective story clown covers,
mm,
super cool, especially the black one where he's got the whiskey glass. It's so creepy and weird and like
love it.
so that's I'm really curious how it says the creeping death shadow cover with the skeleton kind of peeking through the curtain.
Mhm.
That's an interesting pulp because it's one of the few artworks out of pulp that transcends beyond comics, beyond that. Like musicians know that cover. It's been reused for them. Like it's been reused in a bunch of different mediums where a lot of guys know that image from the Creeping Death cover. So like I'm really curious to see where that goes. And everyone loves spices. Everyone loves the
Spicy
spices
and
story.
saucies. Don't forget the
Yeah.
saucies.
Yeah, there's some really cool ones in there, especially some of the like fine, very fine ones I think are gonna go nuts because you're talking about books from late 30s, early 40s that are still in fine, very fine shape with pulps is not easy.
Yeah.
But so I don't know, I'm really excited about that. And then there's some of your keys in there too. There's your Doc Savage one. There's the first appearance of John Carter, first published Edgar Rice Burroughs story in there as well. Like there's some really cool author heavy ones as well. So there's a little bit of everything in there, and some of the ones like I didn't send in to get guys excited. Like the thing about love about pulps is like you have just so much variety in the artwork.
Right.
Yeah, you've got like
Oh yeah,
fun,
that's cool.
you have the robot with the girl. Like that kind of gives me the startling Schomburg robot cover feel to
Which
it.
That's mine. Anyways,
I do not have that one. You
you
have
don't have a 49? Wow.
no, you have more romancy type stuff, kind of medieval romance type covers. Then you've got completely changing. You got some really early robot type stuff with
Those
some
robot
illustrated.
covers, man. Holy cow.
Yeah. So it's got pulps offer a little bit of everything. Whether you're a horror guy, whether you're fantasy, whether you're sci-fi, it's all there in pulps. And so I'm excited to see how the auction does. And really it's a chance for guys to lock up some really hard to find books before we get grading. Because I think once grading hits,
It's just gonna go bonkers.
you're gonna see a huge spike. I mean, the thing is with pulps is like it's not like there's a ton of them sitting out there just ready to go. It's really limited with or without grading. I think grading will bring some of it out of the woodworks, but if you have a chance to get some of these books, don't sleep on them.
Right. And just as a favor, could I trouble you to send me a link to the John Carter one later? So,
I think it's the most expensive book in the auction right now.
damn it.
It's sitting at 22,000. I think it's going to
Wow.
end around 50 to 60,000.
That is quite literally 10 times my budget.
It's funny too because it's such a. I'll show it to you. It's such a non-suspecting cover.
Yeah.
Like with some of the other ones, you can tell because like they're on the cover, but the cover has nothing to do with John Carter. It's just a very nondescript all story, and it's early. It's 1912, I believe,
Okay.
and it's
All Story is one of those that has a lot of big things in it. Yeah, a lot of first appearances or
you've got first Tarzan, you've got first Zorro, you've got first John Carter. I mean, it's yeah, a lot of, and some guys would say like, oh, why do I care about Tarzan? Why do I care about Zorro? And it's like because if you understand that these were the building blocks that gave us Superman, that
yeah.
gave us Batman, like you have to look at it that way. It's not necessary. You're not interested or hedging on Tarzan per se. It's the history and understanding that these were the foundations that then become the heroes that are so big today.
Well, and that's one of the things. Well, that's one of the things I often tell people when it comes to like, why do you collect Golden Age? Who cares about that? It's like these aren't just superheroes and tights. These are parts of American history. These shaped culture. These are like part of what has made America what it is today, whether, for better or for worse. I mean, these things have really influenced America. I mean, do you see the attendance for Comic-Con these days? I mean, 120,000 people over one weekend at one show make that 15, 20, 30 shows a year. I mean, you have several 100,000, maybe millions of people just enjoying shows. And it's all because of where it all came from. So I think that that's really important, and that's good.
That's always been a way I've looked at it, is like whether it's comics, pulps, is that it's the intersection of art and history.
Oh yeah. Now,
it's a good little window into culture at that time.
1,000%. Now, Nate, it looks like we're about to be running out of time here. Before I let you go, I mean, is there anything you want the internet to know? Anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I would just say that there's going to be another collector summit, 100%. Huge thank you to everyone that came out. It was a more success than I could ever imagine. Ton of fun. We're going to bring it back in 2023. Very similar feel. We're not going to go mega show.
Don't do it on the weekend I'm gone if I'm ever gone.
We'll give you a heads up
Talk
this
to me
time.
first.
We're going to go with a slightly bigger room, a couple more vendors, more free space tables. The guys love the free space tables, being able to throw their stuff out there.
Good.
But we're going to keep it very same feel, same venue, same everything. So that'll be coming up. Stay tuned to projects we're working on. A lot of exciting stuff coming up.
Absolutely.
And otherwise, I would say, yeah, just like I'm looking forward to seeing guys at shows. I'm going to be trying to make more presence at West Coast shows, especially now that COVID's died down. That's my favorite part about this thing, is being able to get out and have a beer with collectors, like get to chat in person and get to know these guys. So look for me at some more events out in person. And other than that, I would say don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about anything going on. If you're not on Discord, jump in. It's a great spot to chat. We're always pretty much on there all day long. So
especially me. I just nonstop. It's all I do. It's all I breathe. So
exactly. So no, other than that, I'm super excited just to keep. I'm always going to stay in collectibles. What I collect might change here and there, but I'll always be in the community in one form or another.
Okay. Well, I certainly hope that you can make it to Emerald City Comic Con this August, since last year you had a new baby, so you had to skip out on the show. Totally understandable. Was a little butthurt about it, but it's fine. But I hope that you can come out to the show this year so we can wreck some stuff, get into some trouble, find some cool books. But Nate, my man, thank you so much for taking the time again to just be here and chat me up and let me badger you with all the questions. I do appreciate it. I am gonna let you go so I can say fare thee well to the internet, and I'll catch up with you in a minute. All right, man.
Absolutely. Thanks, Devin.
Thank you. All right, YouTube, you guys heard it here first. Nate, aka Kihei Collectibles. There will be another collector summit in 2023. Thank all of you guys so much for taking the time to tune in and listen to me talk to all of my best buddies just about nerdy shit and collectibles. I appreciate it. It means so very much to me. If you guys do want to follow Nate's instructions, make sure you guys click that link down below or join us on Instagram at Collectors Room, and hit that link in our bio to get us on Discord in the Collectors Room so we can chat comic books and keep that conversation going all day long. Until then, if you guys would be so kind, I'd appreciate likes, follows, shares, hit the bell, comment, all of the YouTube self pump stuff. And until then, I appreciate all of you, every single one of you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next Saturday.